Hey all, Joe here, and here we are for How to Pikachu Part 1. Now, of course, this is a very basic guide slash some first impressions, and of course, there will be a Part 2 and a Part 3 in the future that will be a lot more in-depth. Also, the next video will be of Charizard, as that is my last person, and then we'll get right on to doing the Part 2s, which is probably going to be more on combo guides. With all that said, though, let's get this going. So to begin, Pikachu is a very basic fighter, but a very strong one, kind of like the Mario of Pokken Tournament. He's quite good at everything, and doesn't really have any hard combos, but this just makes him, good all the time. You don't really have to practice too much as this character either to do well as him. So overall, I'd say he's a really good starting character and a very good basic character overall, but he's also just very strong overall, so he's a very good choice. Now, as far as the little specific stuff, first off, he is very, very great at comboing. He has a lot of moves off his forward Y. He also has, some stuff off his up A. He just has a lot of different combos, and they're very easy combos to pull off. They aren't frame perfect or anything. You can just kind of spam the button and pull them off. They do quite a bit of damage, and you actually have a surprisingly high damage output for what type of character you are. You're a basic character, so you'd expect you to do a decent amount of damage, but not the most. But you actually have quite high damaging combos. And especially when you're in your burst, you do even more damage. So really, you do quite well. You have some really nice combos, and a lot of your range moves can actually be comboed into someone, which makes him even better. Other than that, he's also very fast. He has a lot of movement speed, especially when you're using your homing attack in the field phase. You run really fast, and just always you're pretty dang fast. And you also, in general, have very good frame data. Most of your attacks come out fast, and you don't have way too much end lag. This means you can send a lot of moves, and that if the opponent attacks first, sometimes your moves will come out first and actually hit them before they hit you. So that's very nice, and just being fast is always a good thing as a character. Other than that, you also have a good amount of HP, which is really surprising as you think, Pikachu, being such a small character, would have a bad amount of HP, but it's actually pretty good. And it's also very good because you have a small hitbox, which means that it's very hard to actually hit you, and when you have good HP and you have a small hitbox, it just means that you can live for a lot longer, and it's a lot harder for the opponents, combo you and stuff like that. And even if they do combo you, you'll live for longer. So yeah, I'd say that's a pretty good benefit about him. Of course, other than that, and I've already said this, he does have a surprisingly high damage output. Now, most of the time when I look at Pikachu, I don't really think of someone that does, super high damaging combos, super high damaging projectiles, but he actually has quite a high damage output for being so fast, for having so much HP. He's really good at damage too, which just makes him an even better character, and he does a lot more than you would originally think a Pikachu to do. As well, his camping game is actually one of the best in the entire game. He has Thunder, slash the other Thunder, slash his kind of Thunder Jolt type things, and these things actually work very well, and especially in the field phase, you have forward Y and side Y, you can camp quite easily with this character. And also with all your camping tools, you can actually use them to engage the opponent. You can go defensive, offensive, you have a lot of options with this character, and you have a lot of projectiles that can do a lot of different things, which is super nice as, a Pikachu player. As for some final good stuff about him, he does have an up A, which is super good. It's a great get off move, similar to Lucario, not quite as good, but close. And of course, his counter is pretty OP. It combos into stuff. It's just one of the best counters in the game. Yeah. And the final thing to say is that your burst mode is very good as it charges super fast. It gives your Thunder a second hitbox, making it a lot harder to counter. And it makes your basic combos get about an extra 40-ish damage because your up A can be used twice now. And that's really nice. Of course, your burst attack is very hard to hit, which makes it not the best burst in the entire game. And your burst attack doesn't really do that much damage, but other than your burst attack, it's a pretty nice burst. Now, for the basic playstyle of Pikachu in particular, I'll say that you can pretty much play any way you want to, which is a little bit annoying for trying to tell you what way to play. Pikachu can rush down with his quick moves, Pikachu can camp with his projectiles and thunder, Pikachu can play a nice punish game with his amazing counter and up A, you can CADC and go for a lot of nuzzles, you can really do kind of whatever, and that's really great, but it also makes him somewhat hard to play sometimes. It's really hard to know what you're supposed to do at what time, and only really experience can fill this gap as your fighter. Anyway you play him though, he is very good at it, and this makes him such a strong fighter. Now, to the field phase, you do really stinking well. You have a lot of nice moves like your side Y, your forward Y, which are very extremely safe offensive range pressure, and your Thunder, which makes it the enemy kind of has to move around and come towards you, at least somewhat. Also, you have a quick homing attack, which makes you can get next to the opponent really fast, and of course you can cancel this to a grab or to a counter to try to mix up the enemy. As well, your aerial attack's actually pretty good, and overall, you're very solid in this mode. Now, as for a little bit of the bad, I'd say that if the enemy has something like a mirror coat, it can be very hard for you to get in. Your projectiles, of course, don't work at all, and you will have to mix up the enemy with your homing attack. Other than that, though, this phase is mostly about outspacing the opponent and outpositioning whoever you're fighting, and if you do that correctly, you'll pretty much win this phase. Now, for the dual phase, you again do quite well. Your Y is pretty good, the Pokke combo, you have many far range attacks, aka your A and your Thunder, and your Nuzzle is also pretty good here. As well, your combos off of your forward Y are insane, hitting 160 or more damage, and they usually lead to a phase change, getting you some nice burst gauge up there. You have many quick attacks and a lot of safe moves here, and your damage output is quite a bit higher than you expect, so overall it's pretty good here. Now for some of the bad, you don't really have an auto win type move here like Chandelu's Overheat, Charizard's Fire Punch, or anything like that. I mean, you have quite a lot of solid moves, but nothing really overwhelming. And what this means is that you have to play quite well as this guy all the time in order to win, and you can't really play badly and still win as you can with some of the other characters. As well, you can be outspaced quite easily in here by some longer range X or Y attacks like Charizard or Suicune, so you're really going to have to be careful about those and try to run in right as they miss their attack to try to get a chance to, hit one of your own. So for a few tips and tricks, first I'd say try out the Crogun set. Now it's actually pretty nice as it gets the enemy off of you, which is kind of nice as Pikachu as you can space decently, but it also allows you to give the enemy a defense down, which makes your damage output extremely high and makes you just a lot better giving the opponent defense down. It's one thing I've seen quite a bit, and it's something that's pretty nice to try as Pikachu. Another thing is to try to pick out the support focused Tyrannia for the longer charging supports like Yveltal. And now if you have someone like this, you're going to want to have these guys up almost every single time. So it's really nice to have the support focus set, and you pretty much have your burst up anyway, so it really doesn't matter to actually have that in the standard. Overall, I'd say it's a really nice time to, go for the support focused cheer. You don't have to do it, but it's something that I like to do quite often. Finally, a nice tip is that if you press forward and Y at the exact same time in the duel phase, you get a blue version of the attack, your little weird lightning attack that goes upwards. You get a blue version of the attack that combos the exact same, but it gives you 5 more damage. Now this can add up to 10 damage total if you go forward Y to your other moves, and this may just add up to 20 or 30 if you get 2 or 3 of these combos in one game. It's just a nice tip that adds a little bit of extra damage, not really way too hard to do, a little bit hard online, but still it's worth a try to learn. Finally, how strong do I feel like Pikachu will be? And I feel like he'll probably be one of the best characters in the game actually. He's good at pretty much everything and doesn't really have that many awful weaknesses. Of course there isn't too much like super standout about him, but I'm sure that if you pick this person, you will not be let down in the next few months. And there you go, that's all I really have to say about Pikachu. Of course, there'll be a part 2 and a part 3 that'll go a lot more in depth and stuff like that, so subscribe if you want to see those, and like the video if you enjoyed the video. They'll be soon to come. If you enjoyed, tell me in the comment section below. Tell me who you want for next time, after, the Charizard guy. Tell me who you want for the part 2. With all that said, thank you all for watching, and I'll be seeing you all next time.